Hey guys! Tonight we drift back to a time when thunder cracked over the newborn city of Athens. And the air itself felt like it might shatter under divine tension. You're standing on a rocky hilltop. Barefoot. The stones warm from the day's heat but cooling fast under the gathering clouds. Far below, the Aegean flashes like molten glass. Something is coming, you can taste it in the air. And spoiler alert, you probably won't survive this as a mortal. Not with two gods about to fight for ownership of an entire city. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand among the first settlers of this place that will soon be called Athens, though no one knows that name yet. The land is raw, full of promise and threat. The people around you are rough-handed builders, farmers, and dreamers, squinting toward the sea where two divine figures prepare to descend. Lightning forks above the water. You've heard whispers for days, the gods are coming to claim this land. And whichever wins, mortals here will have to live with the consequences. The wind shifts, smelling of rain and iron. A sound rolls through the sky, something between a growl and a drumbeat. And then you see her, Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, stepping down from a beam of light. Her armor gleams like moonlit water, but her eyes are calm, steady. She doesn't look angry. She looks like someone with a plan. Across from her, Poseidon rises from the waves, trident in hand, seaweed curling around his shoulders. His voice booms across the shore, half storm, half laughter. Let's see, little niece, what wisdom you think can rival the sea? Athena doesn't flinch. You can't tell if that's bravery or just millennia of divine patience. She looks at the land, at the people watching in fear and awe, and smiles. Let's offer them gifts, she says. Whichever they choose shall name this city. There's a murmur among the mortals. You glance at your neighbor, a potter with clay still under his fingernails, and whisper, "Is this really happening?" He nods, eyes wide. "It's always happening," he mutters. "We're just usually too small to notice." Poseidon strikes his trident into the rock. The ground trembles, and a geyser bursts upward, salt water fountaining into the air, glittering as it falls back in a shallow pool. The crowd gasps. Some kneel. The water smells of power and motion, of fish and deep tides. You touch it with one finger, and it burns cold, a gift of the sea. Poseidon roars. Power, trade, glory, all yours. It's impressive. No doubt. You can already imagine ships cutting through the waves, men shouting, sails swelling. But salt water isn't exactly drinkable. And someone mutters as much. Poseidon scowls. Athena steps forward. Silent. No thunder. No grand gesture, just a steady gaze. She kneels and touches the earth. From that point of contact, a glow spreads outward, soft and green. And then, before your eyes, a small sapling bursts from the soil. It grows impossibly fast, trunk thickening, branches twisting upward until a full olive tree stands where there was nothing. Its leaves shimmer silver in the fading light, whispering like 1,000 tiny voices. The crowd leans closer. A woman reaches out and touches the bark. "It's beautiful," she says. Athena smiles faintly. "It is peace," she says. "And nourishment." You pick one of the fruits, dark green and smooth. You sniff it, uncertain, and take a bite. Immediate regret. It's unbelievably bitter, like licking a copper coin soaked in vinegar. You cough, trying not to offend a goddess. Athena tilts her head, amused. "Some gifts," she says softly, "require patience." The crowd murmurs again. Poseidon rolls his eyes. "Patience won't build ships," he grumbles. The mortal elders gather, whispering among themselves. The spring from Poseidon glistens under lightning. Magnificent but dangerous. The tree stands calm, unbothered, promising shade, oil, wood. You already sense that the tree feels alive in a different way. Its silence feels deliberate. Finally, one old man, beard white as marble dust, steps forward. "We choose Athena," he declares. "For wisdom feeds us longer than power." Poseidon's eyes darken. "Sea storm grey. You'll regret this," he says. And with a crash of waves, he's gone. The storm dissipates slowly, like the world exhaling. You realize you're still holding that bitter fruit. Athena turns to you, her expression unreadable. "Keep it," she says. "Someday, you'll learn what it's for." And then she, too, fades, leaving only the rustle of leaves and the scent of new rain. That night, the people gather around the glowing tree. They argue about what to do with it. Some want to burn the wood for warmth, others to crush the fruit for oil, others to eat it despite the taste. A young shepherd jokes that it might be a snack for the gods, not for our teeth. Everyone laughs, and the tension eases. But as the laughter dies down, you notice the moonlight shifting across the leaves. They glint like coins. You could swear you hear a whisper, not a voice exactly, but a thought. Patience. Centuries from now, historians will still argue whether this contest ever truly happened, or whether it was a myth created to explain the olive's importance to Greece. Some say the spring was real, an ancient salt water well found near the Acropolis. Others insist the tree was metaphorical, a poetic way of describing the city's turn toward wisdom over warfare. But here, standing in that flickering moment between storm and calm, it doesn't feel like myth. It feels like history being born, bitter, beautiful, and divine. The night stretches on. The olive tree stands, whispering softly in the wind, its roots sinking deeper into the soil of a city yet unnamed. You close your eyes, the taste of bitterness still on your tongue, and wonder what kind of patience could ever turn it into something worth craving. The morning after the storm feels like waking up after a dream you can still taste. The air is sharp and cool, carrying that faint mineral scent left behind by lightning. You rise with the others. The city still half built around you, stone walls half stacked, roofs thatched with reeds, fires smoking lazily. And in the center of it all stands that shimmering olive tree, leaves glinting silver green in the dawn light. Word spreads quickly, the gods' contest is over. Poseidon has vanished beneath his seas, probably muttering curses into the foam. And Athena's name already hums in the mouths of the people. They don't call this city Athens yet. Not officially. But the idea is taking root. Someone paints her symbol, the owl, on a clay jar. Someone else carves it into a doorway. And you can feel it. This isn't just a new settlement anymore. It's a chosen place. The elders call everyone together near the sacred rock, the one that someday will be the Acropolis, and you shuffle forward. Half excited, half wary. The tree still stands within view. Its trunk pale as old bone, branches heavy with dark green fruit. No one's eaten another olive since last night's bitter fiasco. But Athena's words, patience, echo in your head like a promise. The head elder, a man named Damaris, clears his throat. Athena's gift is sacred, he says, voice trembling just enough to remind you that he's as nervous as the rest of you. We must learn how to use it. Someone from the crowd shouts. We already tried. It tastes like anger. Laughter ripples, quick and nervous. But you can feel the underlying reverence too. These people just watched God's duel over their land. A little bitterness seems manageable in comparison. Athena doesn't appear again that day, though several people swear they see an owl perched in the branches. You look too. And for a moment, just a heartbeat, you catch a flicker of movement. Feathers blending perfectly with leaves. Then it's gone. The rest of the morning passes in cautious experimentation. Some villagers try pressing the olives, crushing them between flat stones. The oil that seeps out smells faintly grassy. almost sweet. They smear it on dry bread. Rub it into cracked skin. Maybe this is what she meant. Someone murmurs. The discovery feels monumental. A gift that shines without thunder or blood, but others aren't satisfied. The fruit itself still lingers in their thoughts, the idea that something given by a goddess should be edible. You join them as they pluck another handful, turning them over in your palms. They're beautiful in the way dangerous things often are. One young potter, his name's Callistos, decides to roast a few over the fire. He drops them into the coals and waits, fanning the smoke with his hand. The smell that rises is surprisingly pleasant, earthy, faintly sweet. You lean in, curious. Maybe roasting softens the bitterness. You suggest. He grins. Or maybe we invent poison. He pulls one out, cracks it open, and tastes cautiously. Then he makes a face that says it all. Still terrible. Everyone laughs again. And the tension eases. But it's a good kind of failure, the kind that feels like the start of something. As dusk falls, you sit near the tree again. The sky glows orange. And you find yourself tracing patterns in the dirt, trying to imagine what Athena saw when she struck the ground. Maybe she didn't just want to give food. Maybe she wanted to teach patience, how the best things often start unpleasant, raw, needing care to become what they're meant to be. You overhear a group of traders passing through, already gossiping about the event. A city protected by a goddess. One says, eyes gleaming with opportunity. Imagine what her blessing's worth in trade. The other laughs. Depends if they can sell that fruit without killing customers. It's strange, already. The myth is growing legs, wandering into other tongues. You catch snippets. Some say Poseidon's water turned to wine before it vanished. Others claim Athena's tree sprouted from lightning itself. Not her touch. You can't help but smile. Humans are quick to embroider the edges of truth. Historians will someday tear their hair out over this. That night, under the wide sky, you dream. You're standing in a great hall of marble, walls glittering with mosaics of the sea and sky. Athena walks beside you, not in armor this time, but in a plain linen robe. Barefoot. She picks an olive from an unseen branch, holds it between two fingers, and says softly, "Wisdom isn't knowing everything, little one. It's knowing how to wait." When you wake, your mouth still tastes faintly of salt. In the following days, Athens, yes, people are calling it that now, begins to shape itself around the tree. Builders mark its location as sacred ground. Women come to hang garlands near its roots. Children play in its shade. And though they still don't eat the olives, they begin to use the oil more and more, on bread, on skin, in lamps. The city starts glowing a little brighter at night. One afternoon, you notice an old woman collecting the fallen fruit into a clay jar. You ask what she's doing. She shrugs. Athena said patience. Didn't she? Maybe they need time to sit. You help her fill the jar, layer after layer, until it's nearly full. She pours in a bit of water from the nearby spring, the same salt water Poseidon made. You wince. That's seawater. You say, it'll ruin them. She just smiles. Maybe that's the point. And so the jar sits by her hearth, quietly fermenting under the watchful eyes of household gods made of clay. Days turn into weeks. The woman's hair whitens further. People forget about the experiment. But sometimes, when the wind shifts, you think you smell something different, a faint, tangy note hidden beneath the usual smoke and bread. Scholars in centuries to come will still argue whether such a jar ever existed, whether the first brining of olives was divine inspiration or sheer culinary desperation. Some claim the method came from Egypt or the Levant long before Athens. Others insist the Greeks perfected it by accident, as all great inventions tend to happen. But standing here, watching the woman nod off beside her fire, you feel it's no accident at all. Athena is watching. Maybe she's even smiling. As the fire dies down, you glance at the olive tree again. The moonlight catches its leaves, and for a second, you think you see them move, not from the wind, but in acknowledgement. Morning returns like a slow wave of gold rolling across the hills, and you find yourself once again near the olive tree, now heavy with ripening fruit. The old woman's jar sits beside her doorway, sealed with wax. Every time someone passes, they sniff curiously, wrinkle their nose, and move on. A few children dare each other to open it. None do. You've caught whiffs of it too, salty, sharp, strangely enticing. You're not sure if it smells like something gone bad or something just beginning. The city of Athena grows around the tree now. Men carve temples from the hillstone. Women weave cloaks dyed with herbs and crushed snails. And everywhere, the olive becomes a quiet companion, its oil burning in lamps, soothing scraped knees, anointing statues. You start to notice that everything touched by that oil feels different, almost more alive. Maybe that's the divine part, the way it seems to hold a bit of the goddess's breath. You're sitting by the tree, running your fingers along its bark, when a man named Phorion joins you. He's a farmer, sunburned and missing 2 teeth. The kind of man who laughs easily. He drops beside you, holding an olive between 2 thick fingers. Still bitter. He says, "But I like the challenge, you like the suffering. You tease, same thing." He replies. Maybe Athena's gift wasn't food. Maybe it's humility. You eat this and realize the gods don't make things easy. He tosses the fruit into the fire pit anyway, just to see if a miracle happens. It doesn't. It bursts open, spits oil, and blackens. The scent that rises, though rich, smoky, alive, makes everyone nearby pause. Someone calls out, "What's that smell?" Another answers, "Dinner for fools," but you catch something beneath the laughter, curiosity. It's the spark of invention before anyone realizes they've invented anything. Later that day, you wander through the market. The chatter of trade fills the air, bronze trinkets, barley bread, honey cakes. At one stall, a foreign merchant from Crete tells stories of another goddess who blesses the olive, a wild, older spirit of fertility. He claims the fruit can be made sweet with salt and thyme. You lean in, intrigued. "How long?" you ask. He shrugs. "Long enough for the sea to forgive you." It's cryptic, but it sticks in your mind. Maybe that old woman's jar wasn't madness after all. By twilight, the air is thick with the hum of cicadas and the scent of cooking fires. You return to her hut. She's asleep in her chair again, hands folded, the jar beside her hearth. You crouch and listen. The lid gives a faint pop as the heat of the room shifts. Something inside stirs. A bubble rises, bursts. You almost imagine its size. You can't resist anymore. You lift the wax carefully, enough to peek. The smell that hits you is strong but not foul, a mix of brine and earth. A hint of something savory. Against better judgment, you pluck one olive, rinse it in a clay bowl, and bite down. It's still salty. Yes. But not bitter. Not at all. The texture is firm. The taste deep and strange and somehow right. It's the taste of patience fulfilled, of trial and reward. You laugh softly to yourself, because you realize what you're chewing might be the first true olive snack in history. Athena doesn't appear, but you feel her presence. The air seems thicker. A faint hum like bees in the distance. You whisper, "Was this your plan all along?" The old woman stirs awake, blinking. You offer her the olive, and she tastes it, eyebrows lifting. "Ah," she says. So that's what she meant. By the next day, everyone in Athens knows. The news spreads faster than gossip about a wedding. People gather around her hut, holding their own jars, asking for the recipe. She just laughs and points toward the sea. "Ask Poseidon," she says. "He's the one who gave me the salt." It becomes a ritual. The women soak the olives in brine, sometimes adding herbs or crushed leaves. The men joke about how even gods need seasoning. Children sneak tastes from jars when their parents aren't looking. The first snack of the gods is officially mortal property now. One evening, as the city feasts by torchlight, someone declares that Athena should be honored with a festival every year for this gift. Others argue that Poseidon deserves a nod too. For the salt. Let's not make him angry again. One man mutters, staring nervously at the waves. Historians will one day debate whether this moment, the first preserved olive, really happened here. Some will claim the technique came from Phoenician traders, others insist it was born in these hills under Athena's watchful gaze. But standing there, watching people laugh with brine-stained hands and shining eyes, you can't imagine it happening anywhere else. Later that night, you slip away to the olive grove. The tree glows faintly in the moonlight, its leaves whispering secrets. You place one cured olive at its base as an offering. For a moment, the air shimmers, like heat over stone, and you hear a soft laugh. "See?" says a voice that isn't quite a voice. Wisdom has flavor. You grin into the darkness. "Took us long enough. Mortals always take their time." The whisper replies, "That's why I love you," and then the wind carries the sound away, leaving only the rhythmic chirp of crickets and the rustle of leaves. Back in the city, the fires burn late. People snack, drink wine, and tell stories about how Athena's patience turned bitterness into delight. Someone jokes that the olives make you smarter. Another swears they can feel braver after eating them. You can't help laughing. But deep down, you wonder if they're right. Maybe wisdom really does have a taste, salty, earthy, and a little bit divine. As the embers fade, you tilt your head toward the tree one last time before sleep. Its shadow stretches long and silver under the stars. And you know, this is only the beginning. The world has just discovered that patience can be delicious. Days turn into weeks, and the new taste of patience spreads like a quiet revolution through the streets of Athens. You wake one morning to find a line of clay jars sitting outside doorways, each one filled with olives soaking in seawater or salted water from nearby springs. Some are plain, others are mixed with herbs and wild garlic. The city smells faintly of brine now, a mingling of salt and earth that seeps into your clothes and your dreams, and yet, curiosity always outpaces satisfaction. People want to do more than just soak the olives. They start roasting, smoking, drying. Some genius tries burying them in ash to draw out the bitterness faster. It doesn't work. But everyone respects the enthusiasm. You join a small crowd gathered near the central fire pit, where the old woman, now affectionately called Yaya Oliva by the children, demonstrates how to make the flavor deeper. "Athena's patience is good," she says, stirring a jar with a stick. "But fire teaches faster." She lays the soaked olives on a flat stone near the coals, turning them slowly. The smell that rises, salty, smoky, warm, makes everyone's stomachs growl. You pop one into your mouth. It's soft and rich now, the salt mellowed by heat. Someone claps. Someone else starts humming a tune about divine snacks. And in that moment, you can practically feel the future inventing itself. Still, not everyone is convinced. "We are wasting time with food," grumbles one of the men from the harbor. "Athena's gift should make us rich, not fat." He points toward the olive press where workers strain to crush the fruit for oil. That's the real treasure. Lamps, trade, gold. He's not wrong. Olive oil is becoming the city's second miracle, light in the night, wealth in jars, the heartbeat of commerce. Ships already arrive at the Piraeus with merchants asking for it by name. But you can't help thinking there's something just as sacred about the snack itself, the act of turning bitterness into pleasure. Something even the gods might envy. That night, the elders host a feast to honor the tree. Platters of bread, cheese, figs, and olives line the tables. The air hums with laughter and flute music. You sit near the fire, tearing bread with your hands, when a voice beside you murmurs, "Do you know what you're tasting?" You turn to see a stranger in a simple grey cloak. His hair gleams faintly in the firelight, silver. Almost too bright. "Athena?" you whisper. Half joking. Half serious. He smiles. And his eyes flash gold for just a heartbeat. "Not quite," he says. "Let's call me a friend of hers." He takes an olive, holds it up between his fingers, and says, "This, little mortal, is more than food. It's memory. Salt is the sea's way of never letting go. Brine is time itself. You eat this, and you eat the story of patience. You blink, and he's gone. Just like that. You check your wine cup, wondering if it was stronger than you thought. But his words linger. By dawn, the feast is over. But the myth has grown again. People whisper that Athena herself attended, disguised among them. Someone swears they saw her dancing with the children. Someone else insists she poured her own oil into the lamps. You just smile quietly and keep the memory to yourself. As days pass, the olive becomes more than just food, it's a symbol. Artists carve olive branches into temple columns. Women weave them into wedding wreaths. Soldiers carry sprigs in their belts, believing they'll bring calm minds in battle. The city feels bound by this new green thread, woven through every life. One afternoon, as you help gather fallen olives from the sacred grove, a small group of priests approaches. They've been debating what to do with the growing demand for oil and fruit. "We should ration it," one says. "It's holy," or "share it freely," says another. Wisdom doesn't hoard. You stand quietly, hands full of fruit. As they argue, historians will one day say that this was the beginning of Athens' long debate about democracy, everyone thinking they know what's best. Everyone talking at once. But at least, you think. It all started with olives. Later, in the cool of evening, you sit beneath the sacred tree and trace shapes in the dust with your finger. The wind rustles the leaves overhead. You remember how bitter that first bite was. How impossible it seemed that anything so harsh could become a delicacy. You realize, not for the first time, that Athena wasn't teaching you to eat, she was teaching you to transform. From the distance, you hear a fisherman singing a crude song about Poseidon losing to a woman with better snacks. You can't help laughing. But a few people cross themselves nervously. It's never wise to mock a sea god. The waves seem to crash a little harder that night, somewhere between laughter and thunder. A storm rolls in from the coast. The wind whips the branches. And you swear the tree hums, a low, resonant sound, almost like speech. Lightning flashes once, twice, then fades. You think you hear a whisper, "Balance. Always balance." It's easy to forget how close your small mortal joys are to divine tempers. The next morning, the beach is littered with fish, thrown ashore by the storm. Some see it as Poseidon's warning, others call it a gift. Either way, Athens feasts again, dipping fish in olive oil and salt. And just like that, the gods' rivalry becomes part of dinner. Scholars, centuries later, will puzzle over these early rituals. Was the fish offering gratitude or defiance? Did Poseidon truly rage? Or did mortals simply enjoy dramatizing divine tension? The answer, as always, is lost between fact and flavor. You, however, only know what you've seen, the city growing stronger around its sacred snack. Its people learning that the gods' gifts come with lessons hidden inside them. And as you pop another brined olive into your mouth, the salt stings your tongue just enough to remind you, patience is never free. The night deepens. The fire dies. And the leaves of Athena's tree glimmer faintly, like stars that decided to grow roots. By now, the olive is no longer just a fruit, it's an obsession. The city hums with experiments. Every home smells of salt and smoke. Every kitchen cluttered with clay jars and bowls of herbs. You can't walk down a single alley without hearing someone boast, "My olives are smoother than the priest's lies." Or "Mine could make Poseidon cry with envy." You love the noise of it all, the clatter of mortal ambition mixed with laughter and the faint, eternal rustle of Athena's grove above the hill. But today, something new brews in the air. The morning sun climbs pale and hot, and the wind tastes of salt. Near the center of the settlement, where the sacred fire burns, a group of curious minds gathers around a pit. It's nothing more than a wide clay bowl lined with stones, smoke curling lazily above it. You kneel beside them, drawn by the smell, a mix of oil, herbs, and faint sweetness. New method, says Phorion. That gap-toothed farmer you've grown fond of. If we can cook the olives gently, maybe we can make them last through winter. You glance into the pit. The olives lie in a shallow layer of warm ash and sand, slowly heating from the embers beneath. They'll burn, you say. He grins. Or they'll change. You can't help admiring the madness of it. This is what makes mortals special, an unshakable belief that even divine gifts can be improved with enough fiddling. As the day passes, the experiment continues. The air grows thick with heat. The olives crackle softly, their skins blistering, the smell turning deeper, like bread crust mixed with sea breeze. A few curious onlookers drift closer. Someone brings wine. Someone else adds bay leaves to the pit. By the time the sun begins to sink, the entire square smells divine. You pick one up, warm, slippery with oil, and bite in. The texture is soft. The taste smoky and salty with a hint of sweetness from the fire. You close your eyes. It's perfect. We've done it, you say, almost reverently. Phorion laughs. We've invented dinner. Soon, everyone's talking at once, arguing, celebrating, proposing names. Fire olives, ash pearls, Athena's embers. You just sit back, dizzy from the scent and the laughter, feeling that quiet thrill that comes when humanity inches closer to something eternal. That night, the entire city smells like victory. People wander the streets with baskets of warm olives, sharing handfuls like candy. The children call them wisdom nuts. You watch the sunset from a roof, the glow of lamps flickering below, the sacred olive tree's silver crown catching the last light. Somewhere, an owl hoots, soft, approving, but not everyone is celebrating. Down by the shoreline, the fishermen grumble about neglect. They care more for fruit than for fish. One spits. The sea is jealous. I tell you. Another nods. Poseidon's not going to stay quiet forever, and maybe they're right. Because that night, the sea breathes louder. Waves crash higher against the rocks. In the distance, thunder murmurs, not overhead, but low, far out on the horizon. A warning, perhaps, or a grudge. When morning comes, the city wakes to find a strange sight. Scattered along the beach are shards of coral arranged in deliberate lines, curved, flowing, almost like writing. You go down to look, heart pounding. The symbols mean nothing to you, but they feel like a message. Someone beside you whispers, "Poseidon leaves notes now," another mutters, "He's just showing off." Still, the priests are uneasy. They urge everyone to make offerings, fish, seashells, even amphorae of olive oil poured into the waves. You watch the golden liquid spread on the surface, shimmering like a second sun. Seems like a waste. Phorion says. He's not even here to taste it, but the truth is, the rivalry between Athena and Poseidon is no longer divine, it's human now. The people themselves are reenacting it. Every time they dip bread in oil or toss salt into the fire, the gods have moved into their habits, their mouths, their stories. In the evening, Yaya Oliva, older, slower now, tells the children how Athena once plucked the moon itself to light her first grove, how Poseidon tried to flood it, and how the goddess sealed it with her laughter. That's why the olives gleam at night, she whispers. The children's eyes widen. So the sea won't forget who won. Historians, centuries later, will smile at tales like this, trying to separate metaphor from memory. Some will argue the fire pit roasting came from Anatolia or the Levant. Others will find charred olive pits in Aegean soil and say, "See? The Athenians did it first." But none will capture what it felt like to stand by that pit, to taste the first smoky olive, and know you were chewing on something immortal. That night, sleep comes slowly. You lie under the stars. The sounds of the city drifting around you, the soft hiss of the wind through the olive branches, the low murmur of waves, the crackle of distant fires. You dream of the goddess again. Though this time she's not armored. She's sitting cross-legged beside a clay pit, her hands stained with ash. She looks at you, smirking. "You mortals are faster learners than I thought," she says. You bow your head. "We just get hungry." She laughs, a quiet sound like wind through leaves. Hunger is the beginning of wisdom. When you wake, dawn spills across the sea, pink and gold. The storm clouds are gone. The world feels fresh, renewed. The olive tree stands taller than before, leaves shimmering as if proud. And for the first time, you realize something. Athena didn't just give a tree. She gave a process. A living recipe. One that begins bitter, grows patient, and ends in warmth. And as you watch the first light catch the fruits, turning them silver and green all at once, you can almost hear her whisper, "Keep learning, little one." The flavor deepens with time, the days grow long and bright again, and Athens hums with a strange new confidence. People say the city smells different now, less of smoke and sweat, more of oil and herbs and salt drying in the air. You wake to the sound of merchants arguing over prices for jars of olives, the clink of amphorae rolling over stone, and children singing little rhymes about Athena's golden snacks. You smile to yourself. The olive has become a story, a song, a scent that clings to every part of life here. But something about this morning feels different. There's an undercurrent, a soft, charged stillness that makes the hairs on your neck rise. You can't explain it, only feel it. You find yourself wandering toward the grove. It's quiet except for the hum of bees. The sacred tree stands in the center, its leaves catching sunlight like thin mirrors. At its base, a woman kneels, someone you don't recognize. Her hair is wrapped in a faded shawl, and she wears simple linen robes dusted with travel. A basket rests beside her, filled with freshly picked olives. She hums softly, some tune that sounds old enough to predate language. You step closer, unsure whether to interrupt. "Beautiful, aren't they?" she says without turning. Her voice is low, calm, threaded with amusement. You nod. "They've changed us," she smiles, finally looking up. Her eyes catch the light, gray-green, like the sea under clouds. "Or perhaps you've changed them," she says. You laugh softly. "You sound like one of those philosophers from the Agora." She shrugs. "Maybe I taught them." Something about her presence feels magnetic, both familiar and impossible. You notice her hands, slim, strong, stained with brine. She's rubbing each olive gently, sprinkling salt over them before dropping them into a jar. "Too much salt, and it burns," she murmurs. "Too little, and the bitterness remains." Balance is everything. You kneel beside her. You speak like someone who's done this before. Her smile widens. "Once or twice." She hands you one olive. "Taste." You hesitate, then bite. It's different from any you've tried before, soft yet firm, smoky yet clean. The flavor unfurls slowly, like a secret told in layers. You close your eyes. "It's perfect." Perfection, she says, is patience disguised as flavor. You open your eyes to thank her, but she's already standing, brushing off her robe. The shawl slips slightly, and for a split second, you glimpse a gleam of bronze beneath it, a hint of armor that shouldn't be there. Your breath catches. She raises a finger to her lips. "Hush. Not today." And then she's gone. Not vanished. Exactly, just elsewhere. One moment she's standing before you. The next the grove is empty except for the whisper of wind through leaves. You sit frozen. Your heart thudding softly. The taste of divinity still on your tongue. Later, when you tell Pharian what happened, he laughs until he nearly chokes. Athena herself. Making snacks? Next you'll tell me Poseidon runs a fish market, but as evening falls, you spot an owl perched on the city wall, watching you with eyes like molten gold. You don't laugh anymore. Over the next few days, strange little things begin to happen. A girl in the market claims she found a sprig of olive wood that never burns out, no matter how long it's in the fire. A craftsman says a mysterious woman visited him at night and taught him how to carve spoons that never split, even in boiling oil. Every story describes her differently, young, old, veiled, radiant, but all end the same. She said patience tastes better when shared. Historians will someday puzzle over this wave of stories, calling them the visitations of Athena. Some suggest they were inspired by priestesses, others by traveling traders bringing foreign methods. But you, having seen her yourself, know better. She walks among her people when they're ready to learn something new. One afternoon, you find yourself helping Yaya Oliva, her hands trembling now, but her mind sharp as ever. You met her, didn't you? She asks quietly, eyes narrowing. You nod. She was ordinary and impossible at once. Yaya smiles. That's how wisdom looks up close. She stirs a jar with a long wooden spoon. You know, I think she likes mortals more than the other gods do. Maybe because we fail first, then learn, or because we get hungry faster. You joke. The old woman chuckles. Same thing, outside. Children play in the dust, pretending to be Athena and Poseidon dueling over the city. They wave branches like weapons and shout mock threats. Salt against wisdom. One cries, sea against tree. Another answers. You can't help laughing, even though a small part of you wonders whether Poseidon himself finds this as funny as you do. As night falls, a soft breeze moves through the olive grove. The tree seems to glow faintly in the moonlight again, its leaves turning pale silver. You lie back and stare upward. Somewhere, you imagine Athena smiling, not the fierce goddess of battle, but the one who crouched in the dirt beside you, teaching the magic of salt and time. You think of what she said, balance is everything, and realize she wasn't just talking about brine. She meant all of it. The gods and mortals, land and sea, patience and hunger, even wisdom, it seems, needs seasoning. The last thing you hear before you drift to sleep is the soft cooing of an owl. It sounds a lot like laughter. Morning rises like honey poured over the city, slow, golden, and sticky with heat. The olive pits crackle in the hearths. The air smells faintly of salt and roasted herbs. And for the first time, Athens feels proud of something that isn't war or walls. You wake to shouting in the street below. Get your olives here. Smoked, salted, pickled, or blessed. The merchant's voice rings out like a trumpet. From your window, you see his cart piled high with jars, each one sealed with wax and stamped with a crude drawing of an owl. You can't help but grin. Marketing. You murmur. Athena would approve. As you wander toward the agora, the marketplace buzzes louder than usual. The air hums with the clatter of pots, the clang of bronze tools, the murmur of buyers and sellers negotiating like philosophers. Olives dominate every stall, dark, pale, wrinkled, shiny, sliced, stuffed, even dipped in honey. You taste one out of curiosity. It's strange but addictive. Like biting into both earth and sunlight at once. A young boy nearby sells skewers of olives roasted with figs. He calls it the festival stick. You ask where he learned to make it. A dream. He says matter-of-factly. A woman with grey eyes told me to try. You raise an eyebrow. Grey eyes? He nods. She said, don't eat too fast. You'll miss the wisdom. You can't decide if that's adorable or terrifying. As the day wears on, you sense that the olive's fame is spreading beyond Athens. Traders from Corinth, Thebes, and even far-off islands arrive with donkeys and empty jars, eager to carry this new delicacy home. They crowd around the stalls, haggling with wide eyes. Your city has found gold. One merchant tells you, you shake your head. Better than gold, it grows back every season. By evening, amphorae are being loaded onto ships bound for every corner of the Aegean. Olive oil and pickled fruit, Athena's gift, are now Athens' currency of pride. But amid the prosperity, unease begins to shimmer beneath the laughter. The sea has been restless lately. Waves crashing harder against the docks. Fishermen whisper of strange shapes moving beneath the surface, vast, silver, and silent. The priests say Poseidon's patience is thinning. Historians will later debate whether this period marked the true olive expansion, when Athens began trading oil and preserved fruit across the Mediterranean. Some claim the city's sudden wealth was due to geography, not gods. Others point to clay tablets listing early shipments, proof that olive commerce shaped Athens long before its empire. But you, standing there watching the ships push off into a molten red sunset, know the truth feels deeper than any ledger. That night, a festival begins in the goddess's honor. The entire city glows. Torches line the streets. Musicians play pipes and lyres. And everywhere, the scent of roasted olives mingles with the sweetness of figs and honey. Children wear wreaths of olive leaves and run in circles. Pretending to be owls, you join the crowd near the temple, where a storyteller stands on a low platform. His voice booms, rich and theatrical. Once, he says, Poseidon struck the ground and water sprang forth. But Athena struck the same ground, and life took root. He gave rage. She gave endurance. He gave a wave. She gave a seed. The crowd murmurs approval. You look up toward the Acropolis, glowing white in the torchlight. You swear you see the silhouette of a tall woman there, watching. Proud, amused, the storyteller continues, his voice dropping low and conspiratorial. But what the goddess truly gave was not the tree, it was the recipe. The patience to wait for ripeness. The courage to cure bitterness. The wisdom to taste before judging. The people cheer. You do too. Even though something about his words makes you shiver. Recipes are dangerous things, they spread faster than armies. And they never die. As the festival roars on, the music grows louder. The dancing wilder. Olive oil lamps swing from ropes overhead, glowing like floating stars. For Ion, already tipsy, finds you with a grin. We've made history, my friend, he shouts. The goddess herself eats like us now. You laugh. You're drunk on divine flavor. He insists, wobbling. But in that moment, the sky flashes, a single streak of white lightning over the sea. The music falters. The laughter stills. The wind shifts, bringing the scent of salt and storm. Poseidon. Someone whispers. You look toward the horizon. The water is dark and rippling with strange light. For a heartbeat, you think you see a figure rising from the waves, a man with eyes like the deep, hair tangled with seaweed, shoulders heavy with fury. Then it's gone, leaving only foam and the echo of thunder. The festival resumes hesitantly. Laughter forced. Music softer. But you can't shake the feeling that a new chapter has begun, one where gods and mortals are sharing not just gifts, but grudges. That night, as you walk home, an owl swoops low overhead and lands near a lamp. Its eyes gleam gold in the firelight. You bow slightly. You saw that, didn't you? It hoots once, then turns its head toward the sea and back to you. You sigh. Yeah. Me too. When you finally lie down, the city is quiet again. You fall asleep thinking about the taste of smoke and salt and wisdom, how fragile it feels to be the keeper of a divine snack. Somewhere far below, the sea stirs restlessly, dreaming of its own revenge. The morning after the festival, the sky hangs low and bruised. The sea hasn't calmed. You can hear it from your window, waves pounding the cliffs like a heartbeat that's just a little too fast. The air smells of rain and distant lightning. And somewhere in the city, a dog won't stop barking. You sit up, groggy. And for a moment you wonder whether last night's vision of Poseidon rising from the waves was real or just wine-fueled paranoia. Then the first tremor shakes the walls. It's faint. More like a shiver than an earthquake. But it's enough to spill a bowl of olives from your table. They scatter across the floor, rolling in all directions, little green planets fleeing a collapsing sky. You watch them for a heartbeat. And something cold settles in your stomach. By the time you reach the street, the city is awake and tense. Fishermen rush inland, shouting about whirlpools tearing through the bay. A merchant swears the water rose up like a wall before dropping again. Others say they saw a figure of silver light pacing the surf. You don't need to ask who. Athena's priests gather at the steps of the temple, debating furiously. We must make an offering. One says, no. Another replies, we owe the sea nothing, our goddess won. You can practically taste the arrogance in the air. Thick and dangerous. You glance toward the Acropolis and imagine Athena herself standing there. Arms crossed. Brow furrowed, not angry. Exactly. But weary. Like a parent watching children who refuse to learn. The storm hits at noon. The sky opens with a roar that sounds like stone breaking. Rain lashes the rooftops. Lightning claws at the hills. And wind rips through the olive groves like a beast unchained. You cling to a pillar as the first tree falls. Its roots torn from the ground with a sound like a scream. Oil jars shatter. Fires sputter and die. People scatter, crying out for gods who suddenly feel very far away. For hours, chaos reigns. The sea surges higher, flooding the lower streets. Fish flop helplessly on the marble steps of the marketplace. By nightfall, Athens looks half-drowned, its fires replaced by the cold gleam of lightning reflecting off water. When the storm finally eases, silence rolls in like fog. You step outside, trembling, your sandals sinking into mud and debris. The air smells of salt and broken earth. The sacred grove is wrecked, half the trees down, others stripped bare. But the central tree, Athena's own gift, still stands. Its trunk glistens with rain. Unbroken, you sink to your knees before it. Exhausted. We were careless. You whisper. We took too much pride. Behind you, someone answers softly. Pride is the first fruit of success, and the first to spoil. You turn. It's her again. Athena. This time she's not veiled in shawls or mystery. She stands tall. Her bronze armor glinting in the fading stormlight. An owl perched calmly on her shoulder. Water drips from her hair. But her expression is unreadable, neither wrath nor mercy. Just measured awareness. You bow low. Goddess. We didn't mean. She raises a hand. You meant everything. You just didn't think. You flinch. Poseidon, he's sulking, she says, with the faintest smile. He'll calm down eventually. But storms have long memories. She walks past you, her hand brushing the bark of the sacred tree. Mortals are good at invention, she murmurs, but not so good at restraint. You feast too quickly on what you discover. You lower your head. What should we do? She looks at you for a long moment. Start again. Slowly this time. Remember why you began, to make bitterness edible. Not profit sweet, then. Softer, and next time. Save a jar for the sea. You blink. A jar. For the sea? Athena smirks. Even grudges need an offering now and then. She steps back. And just like that, the stormlight swallows her. When it clears, only the owl remains. It stares at you for a heartbeat, then takes off toward the horizon. Over the next few days, Athens begins to rebuild. The damage is bad, but not fatal. People salvage what they can, patching roofs, drying grain, collecting broken pottery for reuse. Amid the ruins, for Iron finds you repairing a cracked amphora, so the gods fight. And we clean up. He mutters. Typical. You smile weakly. Maybe that's our purpose, to keep learning what they keep forgetting. He chuckles. And here I thought our purpose was to eat. Same thing. You say. Echoing Yaya's old joke, by the end of the week, the storm's rage becomes legend. The elders name it the sea's grudge. They say it was Poseidon's last attempt to reclaim what Athena had stolen. Children will grow up hearing the story, that the goddess's tree stood firm while the gods' waves broke and faded. Historians will someday argue whether such a storm actually struck Athens or if it was myth layered over memory. Some will point to coastal erosion patterns. Others to oral traditions passed down through generations. But you, who felt the rain and saw the goddess in its aftermath, know that myth and memory often share the same bones. One evening, weeks later, you find yourself walking to the shore. The sea is calm again, moonlight trembling across its surface. You kneel and place a small clay jar into the shallows, filled with olives, salt, and oil. For peace, you whisper, and for flavor, the waves slap gently around it. As if accepting the gesture. You could swear. Just for a moment. You hear laughter, deep, rolling, like the ocean exhaling. When you return to the city, the grove is quiet. But something new stirs in the soil, tiny shoots pushing up where fallen trees once lay. The next generation of olives. You smile, realizing what Athena meant. Every storm, no matter how fierce, leaves behind the seeds of patience, and patience, you remind yourself, always tastes better the second time around. The next season slides in quietly, like a cat sneaking through tall grass. The memory of the storm still lingers, broken roofs patched with mismatched tiles, salt crusted on the steps, the scent of damp earth where the sea once slapped too far inland. But the city is alive again, busy, louder than ever. Humans, it seems, rebuild faster than the gods can stay angry. You wander the grove one morning and see it transformed. Tiny olive saplings line the edges of the clearing, their leaves trembling like silver fish scales in the sun. For Iron waves at you from where he's digging another hole. His face streaked with sweat and soil. Second generation. He says proudly, if the storm was Poseidon's tantrum, this, he pats the dirt around a sapling, is Athena's answer. You kneel beside him, helping steady the fragile trunk. They're smaller. You note, for now. He says, everything wise starts small. That line sticks with you all day. You see it everywhere, in the rebuilt market stalls, in the children chasing each other with olive branches, even in the weary laughter of merchants counting their losses. Athens has changed. The storm humbled it. Yes. But it also clarified something. You can feel it in the air, a shift from pride to purpose. The olives themselves, though, taste better than ever. The long rains washed the soil clean. And the surviving trees bear fruit richer, denser, almost sweet. The first batch of pickled olives after the storm becomes a sensation. People swear they can taste the lightning still trapped inside them. Historians centuries later will call this the turning point, when Athens learned to balance divine arrogance with human craftsmanship. Olive preservation methods became more refined, less salt, longer curing, cooler storage. Clay jars were redesigned with little vents for airflow. The earliest recipes for spiced olives appear around this time too: fennel, thyme, lemon peel, even pepper from distant lands. But you don't know any of that yet. You just know that every time you bite into a brined olive now, there's something new in the flavor, something calmer. One afternoon, as you sit with Yaya Olivo under the half-recovered grove, she hands you a small wooden jar. For you, she says. The first from this year's harvest. You open it carefully. The aroma hits you first, sharp, fresh, a little smoky. You pop one in your mouth. The taste is perfect, the faintest bitterness balanced by warmth. They taste different. You say, They taste grateful. She replies with a knowing smile. You glance at her hands. Frail now. Trembling slightly. You should rest. Yeah. She waves the idea away. Olives wait for no one. Besides, I want to see them thrive one more time. You fall quiet for a while, listening to the rustle of the leaves overhead. A small breeze moves through, carrying the soft creak of branches. For a moment, you almost imagine the sound of whispered laughter, Athena's. Perhaps, light and content. Later that evening, you climb the hill overlooking the sea. The waves are calm, glimmering in the late sun. A fisherman passes, humming. His net's heavy with silver fish. Peace, at last, seems to have returned between sea and land. But peace never lasts long in a world with gods. A rumor drifts through the city, first as gossip, then as worry. Sailors claim they've seen a strange island far out to the west, where olive trees grow twisted and black, their fruit oily and bitter as ink. They call it Poseidon's garden, a mockery of Athena's gift. Impossible. You say when Orion tells you. He shrugs. Maybe. Or maybe he's just jealous we make better snacks. You laugh. But uneasily. Because even if the story's false, it feels true. Every gift the gods give has a shadow somewhere. Every light casts a reflection. That night, you dream again. You're standing on a vast plain of water. Moonlight stretching in all directions. In the distance, a figure rises, tall, draped in foam and seaweed, his trident gleaming like lightning. Poseidon. He doesn't speak. He just holds out his hand. In his palm lies a single olive, black, glossy, gleaming with salt water. You hesitate, unsure whether it's an offering or a threat. Then, from behind you, a voice murmurs, "Take it." You turn. Athena stands there, calm and still, the same faint smirk playing on her lips. Wisdom, she says, includes tasting the enemy's gift. You reach out, take the sea olive, and bite. It's bitter beyond belief, cold, briny, almost painful, but underneath, you taste something else, depth, motion, the echo of waves and distance. When you wake, the taste still lingers. You realize it wasn't a dream at all. Or at least not only one. It was a message. The next morning, you go to the shore. You scoop a handful of wet sand and plant a single olive pit in it. Just to see. People will laugh at you. Of course. Trees don't grow in salt. They'll say, it'll rot. But something tells you that maybe, just maybe, it won't. Historians still argue whether Athens ever attempted to grow olive trees near the coast. Some say no, others cite fragments of poetry describing silver trees rising from foam. But you'll never know how it ends. Not really. You just know that the gods still whisper through the soil. And humans keep answering back with roots. As the sun sets, you sit by the sea again, watching light scatter over the waves. The world smells of salt and smoke and new beginnings. The horizon glows. Somewhere beyond it, maybe Poseidon tends his dark grove, brooding. Maybe Athena smiles, knowing that even the god of storms can't resist the taste of her wisdom. And you, a mortal caught between them, take another olive from Yaya's jar and pop it into your mouth. Salty, smoky, perfect, balance. You murmur, always balance. By the time another year drifts by, the storm has become legend and the olives, well, they've become currency, comfort, and conversation. Athens smells perpetually of salt, smoke, and slow patience. Even the children now know how to sort unripe from ripe fruit, how to test the brine with their pinky fingers, and how to whisper a little prayer to Athena before tasting the first cured one of the season. You start noticing how olives have woven themselves into every ritual of life. Birth, a dab of oil on the baby's brow. Wedding, olive crowns for both bride and groom. Funeral, a lamp burning pure olive oil to light the soul's way. It's as if every joy and sorrow now requires Athena's flavor. One afternoon, You're in the marketplace again, helping Phorion set up his new stall. His jars gleam in the sun, each labeled with dramatic flair: Stormfire olives, Sea Whisper brine, Athena's patience. You really named one after Patience? You ask. Amused, he grins. Sells faster than the others. You're about to joke back when a stranger approaches. He's not from Athens, his tunic is foreign, his beard carefully oiled, his accent lilting. I've heard of your olives, he says. From as far as Egypt. They speak of this golden oil. You exchange a look with Phorion. Egypt. That's weeks away by sea, the man continues. We trade in resin and spices. We could fill your jars with flavor the world has never tasted. He gestures grandly. Cinnamon, coriander, dried citrus peel. Imagine it, all dancing with your goddess's gift. You hesitate. The idea sounds intoxicating and a little dangerous. Athena's olives mixed with foreign spice, it feels like tampering with something sacred. Phorion, of course, is already nodding enthusiastically. Let's try it, and that's how the experiment begins. That evening, you and the foreign trader set up a clay bowl in the back of the stall. You add olives, drizzle oil, sprinkle salt, and then, hesitantly, drop in a few curled shards of cinnamon bark. The air changes immediately. The scent is strange but mesmerizing, familiar fruit meeting something distant and exotic. When you taste one, your eyes widen. It's shockingly good, sweet heat followed by smoky salt. You laugh in disbelief. Athena, forgive us, you say. But this might be even better. The trader smiles knowingly. The gods enjoy variety. Why else make so many lands? Historians centuries later will point to this era as the beginning of the olive's great journey. They'll find Amphirean shipwrecks scattered across the Aegean and beyond. The resin-sealed jars still scented faintly of oil and spice. They'll call it the birth of Mediterranean trade, sparked by one goddess's snack. But you, sitting there with oil-stained fingers, don't think about history. You just think about taste. Over the next weeks, Athens becomes a culinary laboratory. People start adding everything imaginable: garlic, herbs, even crushed grapes, sweet olives. Phorion crows one day, holding up a bowl as if he's discovered fire again. Dessert fit for the gods. You roll your eyes. Or for dentists. But the truth is, you love it. Every experiment feels like a conversation between mortals and divinity, tiny edible prayers. And maybe that's why Athena doesn't seem to mind, at least, not yet. One evening you walk through the grove and find the air unusually still. The sacred tree glimmers faintly in the moonlight. But the usual hum of crickets and night breeze is gone. Then you see her. Athena stands by the trunk, arms folded, watching you with those ageless eyes. You've been busy, she says. You swallow. You told us to learn. I did, she replies. But even learning needs boundaries. You brace yourself for divine scolding. But her tone softens. Do you know why I gave the olive to Athens? You shake your head. It wasn't for wealth or trade. It was to remind you that something bitter can become beautiful, if treated with care. She steps closer. But when you rush to make it sweeter, you forget the lesson. You glance down at your hands, still faintly sticky from the spiced batch earlier. We only wanted to honor it. Athena studies you for a moment, then sighs. Mortals honor by tasting, not by conquering flavor. She turns to the tree, laying her palm on its bark. Still, you've done well. Better than most. Keep the balance. Remember that wisdom isn't the absence of mistakes, it's the patience to fix them. You nod slowly. Balance. You repeat. Her lips curve in that familiar, knowing smile. You learn faster than Poseidon. Then she's gone again, fading like the echo of an owl's wing beat. You stand there for a long while, watching the leaves shimmer. Her words settle into you like roots: bitterness, patience, balance. 3 ingredients for both olives and life. The next day, You convince 4 Iron to label one jar the goddess's balance. It's the simplest one, just olives, oil, and salt. No herbs. No spices. No experiments. When people taste it, they always pause, eyes half closing, as if something quiet inside them suddenly remembers how to breathe. Even 4 Iron admits it sells better than his Firestorm blend. That night, you sit on your roof again. A small bowl beside you. The city glows below, temples, torches, laughter echoing off the hills. You lift an olive, still glistening with oil, and whisper a small toast to the goddess, to patience. You say, and maybe it's your imagination, but far above, an owl glides past the moon, circles once, and disappears into the dark. Morning sunlight glints through olive branches as Athens wakes to the sound of sandals scuffing temple steps. You're not at the market today, you're following a trail of whispers that leads up the Acropolis, to a new ritual that everyone's talking about, apparently. The priests of Athena Polias have decided to dedicate the first ever snack offering. Which, yes, sounds suspiciously like someone took the idea of lunch and made it holy. You reach the marble platform where a small crowd gathers. The air smells of oil, incense, and baked bread. On a pedestal rests a shallow bronze bowl, gleaming with freshly cured olives. The high priest adjusts his robes, mutters a few solemn words, then dips his fingers into the bowl and lifts one olive skyward. May her wisdom flavor our hearts as she flavors the fruit. He intones. The crowd murmurs back in agreement. And you stifle a grin. Somewhere out there, Athena is probably smirking too. After the ceremony, a young boy leans over to you and whispers, "Do you think she actually eats them?" You shrug. Maybe. Or maybe she just enjoys the aroma. The boy nods sagely. Like my dad with the stew pot, smells it. Never shares. You laugh quietly. And the priest glares in your direction, which only makes it funnier. As the ceremony ends, worshippers step forward to leave small bowls of olives at the statue's feet, different types from every household, brined, smoked, roasted, spiced, a rainbow of green, black, gold, and purple. You notice something beautiful, though each tastes different. Together they make a kind of harmony. The temple smells not just sacred, but alive. Later, outside, you find yourself talking to a woman balancing a basket of figs. They say if you leave Athena the best ones, she'll whisper recipes to you in your sleep. She says. You raise an eyebrow. Has she done that to you? The woman grins. I woke up craving honeyed olives last week. Either Athena's generous, or I'm just snack obsessed. That night, lying under your modest roof, you actually dream about olives swimming in golden honey, sweet, shimmering, absurd. You wake up thinking, well, now I have to try it. The next morning you do. It's a disaster. The olives turn into a sticky mess that would make even Poseidon frown. But the idea lingers. Maybe, just maybe, dessert olives could work, with the right patience. Historians will one day call this the birth of culinary experimentation as devotion. To ancient Greeks, cooking wasn't separate from worship, it was worship. Every taste test was a small prayer, every burned batch a sacrifice, and that's exactly what begins to spread. In homes across Athens, small shrines appear in kitchens, a painted clay owl, a branch from the sacred grove, a bowl of oil kept pure and untainted. Housewives whisper thanks to Athena before dipping bread. Fishermen brush their nets with olive oil for luck. Even sculptors rub a drop on their hands before chiseling marble, for steady fingers. They say, you visit one potter named Lycos, who swears his kiln runs better when he smears a little oil on the rim. You're skeptical. You sure that's not just superstition? He grins, showing olive-stained fingers. Superstition, science, both start with sibilant sounds and hope for miracles. You decide not to argue. Then one day, something stranger happens. A rumor spreads about a kitchen god. Not a grand Olympian. Not one of the famous 12, but a tiny household spirit born from Athena's own laughter. Supposedly, he protects cooks who treat food with respect and punishes those who waste it. You're intrigued. So, Athena has an assistant now? You ask a baker. She shrugs. More like a sous chef. The legend grows fast. People start leaving mini offerings of olives and bread crusts on window ledges to please the so-called oleos, the spirit of savory patience. Children even carve little clay figurines of him, a squat, smiling fellow with an olive pit for a belly button. Historians still argue whether oleos was ever real myth or just an urban legend born from olive-loving Athenians. But whether real or imagined, he becomes a symbol of care, of not taking food, or the goddess, for granted. You rather like that. As months pass, you notice something else. The temple priests are trying to keep up with popular trends. One afternoon, you overhear them debating whether roasted olives can still count as sacred or if heat spoils divine simplicity. One argues that the goddess's flame purifies. Another insists it's indulgence. You step closer and whisper, maybe she enjoys a bit of indulgence now and then. They glare at you. But one younger priest chuckles. Wisdom is balance, he murmurs, echoing Athena's words. You give him a small nod of approval. Meanwhile, festivals evolve. The Panathenea, once all about athleticism and procession, now includes cooking contests, olive-based dishes only. Of course, you help judge one year. The entries range from savory pies to something resembling olive jam. One contestant insists her recipe was revealed in a dream. You don't doubt it, and yes, there are still debates, scholars bickering over whether olives were first cultivated by humans or granted by Athena herself. Historians still argue whether the earliest trees were wild gifts of nature or divine interventions. Says one philosopher during a symposium, waving his wine cup dramatically. I say, does it matter? We're still eating the results. You almost choke laughing. That's the wisest thing anyone said all day. The olive, once a miracle, has become mundane and sacred all at once, a paradox Athena would appreciate. It feeds. It blesses. It unites. Every time you bite into one, you feel both the warmth of the sun that grew it and the chill of that first divine storm that brought it to earth. Years slip by softly. The way oil glides down a clay jar. The groves expand. New shrines rise. And you find yourself wandering back to the temple one twilight, where the bowl of offerings still sits, overflowing with every color of olive imaginable. You dip your fingers in, pick one, and taste it. The salt stings slightly, the flavor is deeper than ever. You whisper a quiet thanks, because now, you finally understand, it was never about inventing a snack. It was about teaching patience, faith, and the gentle joy of turning bitterness into beauty, and maybe, just maybe, about having something delicious to share with friends. You wake to the sound of creaking timbers and the rhythmic splash of oars, the heartbeat of empire. The city of Athens has become a humming hive of trade. And you're on a ship now. Its sail embroidered with a silver owl and an olive branch. Amphorae clink below deck, each packed with brine fruit or shimmering oil. You never imagined that a simple snack could move ships, fortunes, and faith, but here you are, bobbing across the Aegean, tasting salt air and destiny. The captain, a leathery man with a grin that could charm the sirens themselves, shouts orders over the waves. Keep her steady. Those jars hold half the city's pride. He gestures toward the horizon. Next stop, Rhodes. Then maybe Cyprus if the gods behave. You glance down at a small clay jar resting at your feet. It's stamped with Athena's owl and sealed with wax. Inside, Athena's balance. Your favorite blend. You can't help smiling. Every ship now carries at least a few of those. Olives are no longer just food, they're Athens' calling card. Its identity poured into oil and salt. You lean against the railing, watching the wake glitter behind you. The water smells sharp and alive. And for a moment, You imagine Poseidon down there somewhere, still sulking about losing his contest. The sea has forgiven nothing. But even gods can't stop trade winds. Historians still argue whether Athens' rise as a maritime power began with war or with olive oil. Future scholars will write, "You know the truth, it began with taste. Soldiers fight for glory. But merchants sail for flavor." When you dock in Rhodes, the port is a chaos of shouting voices, wagons, and goats that absolutely shouldn't be in the middle of the market. You follow the captain into a narrow alley filled with traders. A Phoenician woman is selling glass beads that catch sunlight like trapped rainbows. A man from Egypt hawks linen smoother than silk. And then, there they are, stalls filled with jars of olives from Athens, Corinth, even distant Crete. You watch as a Rhodian cook dips a finger into one jar, tastes, and immediately orders 10 amphorae. A miracle in brine. He declares, "How do Athenians make bitterness taste like heaven?" You grin. "Patience," you say softly, as the weeks pass. You travel farther, past Cyprus, to Egypt itself. The Nile smells different from the Aegean, warmer, heavier, with the faint sweetness of reeds. You see olives offered beside lotus flowers in market shrines, oil lamps flickering in temple corners, and even scribes dipping bread in oil while writing hymns to their own gods. Athena's snack has gone global. One night, in a small riverside tavern, you sit with merchants from every corner of the known world. They talk about profit, sure, but also about the strange way this humble fruit seems to unite everyone. "The Persians press it for light," says one man. "The Egyptians use it for skin. The Greeks eat it for joy." "And you?" someone asks you. You swirl your cup, watching the oil shimmer on the surface. "I think we use it for memory," you say. They nod quietly. It's strange how quickly food becomes a map of civilization. The spread of olives brings with it language, art, architecture. Every amphora carries not just oil, but ideas, recipes, rituals, even philosophies. You begin to see olive trees sprouting near foreign temples, their roots whispering in strange soil. In Alexandria, scholars begin to record the healing uses of olive oil, soothing burns, easing aches, cleansing wounds. A gift of Athena. One physician writes reverently. You smile to yourself, if only he knew how literal that was. But it isn't all peace and prosperity. The more valuable the olive becomes, the more it attracts greed. You hear stories of merchants watering down oil, of thieves sneaking into groves at night, of cities fighting over trade routes, empires built on oil and salt. You mutter to yourself, and toppled by the same, one stormy evening, as your ship creaks under grey skies, you remember that first contest again, Poseidon's roar, Athena's calm. Maybe this is their eternal balance, chaos and wisdom, wave and root, both shaping the world in their own way. When the storm passes, you find yourself drifting near the coast of Sicily. The sailors, exhausted but alive, break open a jar of olives as an offering. They pass it around silently, eating with gratitude and laughter. Even now, in the middle of nowhere, Athena's gift sustains them. You look up at the stars, damp hair clinging to your forehead. Somewhere in the constellations, perhaps, Athena watches her olive empire unfold. Does she feel pride, or worry? Maybe both. Mortals have turned her symbol of peace into an engine of ambition. Back in Athens, you hear later, philosophers are debating that very question. Can virtue survive commerce? One asks. Can wisdom stay pure and sold by the jar? Another replies. No one agrees. But the debate never ends. It becomes a tradition in itself, proof that even in prosperity, the goddess's lesson remains unfinished. When you finally return home, the city is unrecognizable. Marble temples gleam, streets buzz with life, and statues of Athena now hold not spears but small bowls of olives. You walk through the agora and realize the olive has done what even armies could not, it connected worlds. You pause under a tree older than memory, one whose roots twist deep into the rock. The air hums faintly, and you feel something, an echo of her presence. Calm and curious, you whisper, "We've taken your gift far, haven't we?" A breeze stirs the branches, scattering a few olives that fall at your feet like lazy drops of rain. You pick one up, turn it in your hand, and smile. Maybe it's Athena's answer, or maybe it's just gravity. Either way, it feels right. You pop it into your mouth. The flavor is sharp, clean, ancient. The taste of patience and empire. Centuries roll past like amphorae down a ship's gangplank. And you find yourself drifting forward through time. The olive groves still breathe beneath the Athenian sun. But their caretakers now wear different robes, speak new dialects, and write with quills instead of chisels. Yet, when they press an olive between thumb and forefinger, the same green oil glistens, ancient light reborn each season. You wander through the agora again, though it's not quite the same. The marble's smoother, the vendors louder, and above the din, the air hums with philosophy instead of barter. A young scholar sits beneath a colonnade, surrounded by scrolls and half-eaten bread. He's scribbling furiously, muttering to himself. You lean closer and catch a few words. If wisdom begins in wonder, then perhaps it also begins in flavor. You grin. Careful, you whisper. That line might start a culinary revolution. He looks up, startled, as if he heard something but can't place it. Then shrugs and dips his bread in oil again. All across Athens, debates about Athena's olive have taken on new life, not as myth, but as philosophy. Was it divine invention or human ingenuity disguised as miracle? You overhear one grey-bearded scholar proclaim in the symposium, "No goddess taught us. We learned by accident, bitterness forced us to invent patience." Another counters, "Ah, but where did the idea of patience come from? If not divine inspiration?" Historians still argue whether Athena's act was literal or metaphorical, whether a real goddess stood upon that hill or whether she was simply the embodiment of wisdom itself. You listen from the edge of the crowd, sipping diluted wine, and think, maybe both can be true. It's strange how mortals always seem more obsessed with the how than the why. In one dusty corner of the academy, a student runs an experiment. He tries to replicate Athena's original brine by mixing water from a sacred spring with salt measured according to old temple records. You watch as he tastes it and immediately winces. Too divine. He gasps. Eyes watering. Burns like philosophy itself. You can't help laughing. Wisdom does sting a little. You say under your breath. Meanwhile, in the Grand Library of Alexandria, you peek over the shoulder of a scribe copying recipes older than memory. One scroll is titled Duoli Sapientiae, on the olive of wisdom. It's part botany, part theology, part cookbook. The author claims that Athena's tree was the first to bridge heaven and stomach. You think that's the most accurate description anyone's ever written. The further you wander, the more versions of the myth you hear. In one, Athena didn't strike the ground at all, she cried, and her tears became olives. In another, she fed the fruit to a mortal lover who spat it out in disgust, leading her to invent brining out of spite. And your favorite, that she simply tripped over a rock, dropped her spear, and, voila, tree. People can't stop rewriting the story, reshaping it like potters molding the same clay over and over. It's as if humanity can't bear a single truth, it needs countless flavors of belief. One philosopher, a thin man with ink-stained fingers, catches your attention at a symposium. He argues, perhaps Athena was not a goddess above us but the wisdom within us. When humans transformed the bitter olive, they revealed their own divinity. You lean back, smiling. So, you're saying the first olive snack was self-discovery? He doesn't hear you. Of course. But you imagine he'd agree, and yet, for every thinker who questions, there are others who still pray. You visit a rural temple, far from the city, where farmers still offer bowls of olives at dawn. Their prayers are simple: for rain, for harvest, for peace. The statue of Athena there is small and unadorned, carved from olive wood itself. Her expression is soft, her hand extended as though she's about to pass you a fruit. You take one from the bowl, chew thoughtfully, and realize that both the philosophers and the farmers are right in their own ways. Faith and thought, like brine and oil, coexist in balance, but oh, how the scholars love to complicate that balance. You sit through an endless lecture by one particularly dramatic historian who claims the olive tree predates Athena. It was the gods who learned from us. His students applaud politely, though you spot one quietly doodling a bowl of olives in the margin. You're pretty sure Athena would enjoy the irony. Outside, the world shifts. Rome rises. Empires march. Temples crumble and rebuild. Still, the olive persists. In every age, someone rediscovers its power: soldier, monk, poet, or farmer. You meet a Roman centurion who swears that rubbing olive oil on armor invites divine protection. You meet a Byzantine nun who blesses each jar before sealing it, whispering, "Athena, forgive the new name we give you." You watch civilizations rename the goddess, Minerva, Sapientia, holy wisdom, but she keeps the same patient smile. Even when her temples become churches and her statues wear new halos, the olive remains untouched. The snack survives every translation of faith. You find yourself thinking about something Athena once told you: wisdom isn't the absence of mistakes, it's the patience to fix them. You realize that the olive tree has outlived every mistake humanity's made so far. Fires, wars, droughts, it endures, quietly reteaching the same lesson. One evening, you stroll through a grove that's been tended for 1,000 years. The trees twist like old dancers, bark silver in the moonlight. You rest a hand on one trunk and feel its slow heartbeat beneath your palm. You whisper, "You remember, don't you? The first storm, the first snack, the first laughter." The leaves rustle softly in answer. You laugh to yourself. Of course you do. By now, the scholars in distant cities are dissecting the myth down to its roots, arguing in Latin, scribbling in candlelight, convinced that truth can be boiled like olives until pure. They'll never realize that truth, like brine, needs a little imperfection to taste real. You tilt your head back and look at the stars. Somewhere up there, Athena's owl still flies, watching, guiding, amused. You wonder if she misses the old days, when wisdom came with laughter and snacks. You grin. Don't worry, goddess. We still snack. We just debate more, and the breeze that sighs through the leaves almost sounds like a chuckle. You blink, and the centuries slide away like oil over glass. The temples fade. The marble cracks. And suddenly you're standing in a different kind of Athens. Glass towers replace marble columns. Motorbikes growl where chariots once clattered. But the air, somehow, still smells faintly of olives and sea salt. You wander down a narrow street in Plaka, past souvenir shops and cafes. A waiter leans from a doorway, calling, "Calimera. You want coffee? Maybe a little snack?" You smile, stepping inside, letting the hum of conversation wrap around you. The place is small, cozy, blue tiles, old posters, a ceiling fan that hums like a sleepy cicada. On the counter sits a jar of olives, fat, glossy, black as midnight. You sit, order coffee, and can't resist pointing to the jar. "Those," you say. "Are they local?" The waiter beams. "Of course. Kalamata. Best in the world. Grown with sunshine, patience, and maybe a prayer or two." He winks and drops a handful into a small dish for you. You pop one into your mouth, and the taste hits you like time travel. Briny, rich, layered with the same quiet wisdom that first bloomed under Athena's touch. It's the same story, just wearing a modern accent. Around you, life buzzes. Students gossip over laptops. An old man plays backgammon. Tourists take photos of their plates before eating. Everyone's distracted. Yet everyone eats olives without thinking, snacking on millennia of history between sips of espresso. You can't help chuckling softly. She'd love this. You whisper. The man at the next table glances up. Who? Oh. You say. Smiling. Just an old friend, outside. The city hums in rhythms both ancient and electric. Cars zip past ruins that still glow under the afternoon sun. You stroll out after finishing your coffee, jar of olives in hand, and start walking toward the Acropolis. As you climb, something uncanny happens. The air thickens with cicada song and memory. Tourists laugh. Phones click. But beneath the noise, there's a whisper. A hum you've heard before. It's like the murmur of olive branches in a sacred breeze. You stop halfway up and gaze across Athens. The city spreads below like a tapestry of eras, satellite dishes and domes, marble ruins and neon signs. Yet somewhere under every building, every stone, lies the root of an ancient tree. A historian you overhear at the site says to his group. Historians still argue whether this sacred olive, the one Athena gave, was ever real. Some say the tree in the Erecthean is its descendant. You smile. Descendant. You think. That's one way to describe eternity. You wander through the museum next, tracing artifacts behind glass, old amphorae sealed with residue of oil, clay figurines of owls, faded frescoes showing women gathering olives under the sun. One placard reads, "An olive, symbol of peace, endurance, and the divine feminine of wisdom." You mutter, still hitting the same notes after 3,000 years. Later that evening, you join a cooking class, half tourists, half locals, in a tucked-away kitchen that smells of garlic, lemon, and nostalgia. The chef, a wiry woman with a mischievous smile, announces, "Tonight, we make olive snacks the old way." You raise an eyebrow. Old as in ancient Greece old? She laughs. Almost. Brine, herbs, and a little magic. You roll up your sleeves and join in. The bowl in front of you glistens with water and salt. You crush herbs between your fingers. Thyme, rosemary, bay. The scent rises, sharp and alive. The chef explains how brining takes weeks. How true flavor demands waiting, patience. Always patience. You smile quietly. Athena's still teaching. You whisper. The chef looks over. What's that? Just remembering a recipe. You reply. When the olives are finally ready to taste, the group gathers around. Someone jokes about divine flavor, another insists theirs are better than store-bought. You taste yours, perfectly cured, balanced, alive with that same old wisdom, and suddenly you see it all again, the dusty square, the thunderclouds, the goddess's calm hand striking the earth. The taste carries her through time like a message sealed in salt. You look around the room, laughter, friendship, stories being swapped like recipes. It's all so ordinary, and yet somehow sacred, because this, you realize, is exactly what she wanted. The olive was never meant to sit on an altar, it was meant to be shared, passed between hands, eaten with gratitude and a smirk. You think of how humanity turned that one small act of generosity into trade routes, empires, philosophies, and now cooking classes. All of it still orbiting one seed of an idea, that bitterness can become joy if you treat it right. As the class ends, you step outside into the evening. The Acropolis glows above, golden under floodlights. And for just a second, you swear the olive trees on the hill shimmer faintly, like silver fire in the dark. You whisper, still watching. Aren't you? The breeze answers softly, carrying a faint scent of salt and sage. You grin. Good. Because I'm still snacking, and as you pop one last olive into your mouth, its briny spark bursts across your tongue, the same taste that once silenced a crowd in a newborn city. Thousands of years later, the world keeps moving faster and faster, but the olive still demands patience. The goddess's lesson survives every language, every empire, every kitchen. Maybe that's immortality, not in temples or scrolls, but in the simple, human act of savoring something slow. You wake before dawn. The city still hushed, and the jar of olives sits on your nightstand like a relic from another world. The air through your open window smells faintly of dew and dust, and somewhere a church bell counts the slow rise of morning. You roll one olive between your fingers, feeling its smoothness, its quiet confidence. You've followed Athena's story across ages, watched her gift take root, bloom, and feed empires. But here, in the still grey before sunrise, it feels smaller and grander all at once. Just you, a single fruit, and the patient hum of time. You step outside, wandering the early streets. Athens before the tourists wakes like an old cat, stretching, sighing, blinking. Shopkeepers sweep doorways. The first scent of bread curls from a bakery. Pigeons mutter philosophy in the square. You sit on a bench near an olive tree, not ancient, but proud. Its trunk twists like a sculptor's hand. Silver leaves trembling. You take a bite of bread, another of olive, and the flavors mingle like truth and myth, each better with the other. Historians still argue. You recall one saying yesterday, whether the olive's importance was symbolic or practical. You smile. Maybe both. Maybe the symbol was the practice, the quiet, daily act of cultivation, patience, and gratitude, because in a world of chaos and conquest, the olive asked for something radical, peace. You can't rush its fruit, can't hurry its growth. It teaches you to wait, to tend, to taste only when the time is right. That's not just agriculture, it's philosophy disguised as a snack. You think back to Athena, her calm amid Poseidon's fury, her choice of creation over destruction. She didn't win with power, but with usefulness. The olive tree stood for life that endures, for nourishment that asks nothing but care, and maybe, you realize, that's why her story never really ended. The world keeps reinventing her, turning her wisdom into trade, art, rituals, skincare, even the humble tapenade. Every jar, every branch, carries a quiet echo. Grow wisely, share freely, live patiently. You finish the last olive and lean back, listening to the city come alive. Somewhere a radio plays, blending with bird call and the low hum of scooters. The light climbs slowly over the Parthenon, kissing stone and steel alike, and you imagine her there, not in marble, not in myth, but walking beside you, barefoot in sandals, carrying a jar of olives and smirking like she knows exactly how this all turned out. You did all right. You whisper. Your snack caught on. The wind stirs, soft and approving, rustling the branches above you. You grin, stretching. Guess I'll keep the tradition alive. You walk toward the market, where vendors are setting up pyramids of fruit, glistening fish, the earthy perfume of herbs. You buy a small jar of olives to take home, and the woman selling them leans in conspiratorially. My grandmother says each olive carries a blessing. She says, eat them slowly, or the magic slips away. You nod solemnly. I'll be careful, and you will be. Because now, you know that every briny bite carries history, myth, sunlight, and a goddess's whisper. You wander back through the awakening city. The hum of scooters turns to a symphony of horns and chatter. Somewhere, a cat darts between olive crates, stealing fish scraps. The world spins on, messy and miraculous, always in motion, yet still rooted in something older than memory. Maybe that's Athena's real trick, not the invention of the olive snack itself, but the way it still connects you to a time when gods and mortals shared the same table, the same hunger, the same laughter. You pause before one last tree on your way back. Its branches sway gently, leaves flashing silver in the sun. You rest your hand against its bark, feeling the pulse of life beneath it. Thank you, you whisper, not sure if you mean the tree, the goddess, or the story itself. It doesn't matter. The wind answers anyway. The city fades again, softening at the edges. The market's hum grows distant, replaced by the slow rhythm of the sea. The olive trees become shadows swaying in a lullaby breeze. You're still there, sitting beneath one, barefoot, calm, a faint smile resting on your face. The air smells of earth and sunlight. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rings once. Then again. Slower, everything quiets. The stories, the gods, the crowds, all drift away until it's just the rustle of leaves and your own steady breath. The goddess doesn't appear this time. She doesn't need to. Her lesson lingers in the silence: patience, kindness, balance. You can almost taste it still. Salt and sweetness mingling on your tongue. You lean back, closing your eyes, and let your thoughts unspool like threads of light. The world feels gentler now. The night air settles like a blanket, warm where it touches. Somewhere, an owl hoots softly, the old symbol of wisdom, keeping watch. The stars shimmer above, each one a reminder of how small you are and how ancient everything beautiful can be. You exhale, slowly, letting go of the day, the myths, the noise. Just drifting now, in a space between waking and sleep, where the olive trees still whisper their endless lullaby.